The world is a beautiful but challenging place to live. And let's face it, life hits hard sometimes. So if you find your hopes and dreams and mental well-being needs a boost, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to Inspire Us with your host, J. Paul Nadeau, a former hostage negotiator turned motivational speaker and acclaimed author of Take Control of Your Life. And now, here's your host, J. Paul Nadeau.
Hello, Michael, and welcome back to Inspire Us. It's so glad to have you on for a second show.
Oh, man, great to be here. Thanks for asking me on.
Oh, no. Last time when we spoke about a topic, human trafficking, and what people can do to become more aware and even to help prevent human trafficking, your information was so valuable. You contributed so much great content and information, and our audience absolutely loved it. Now, we weren't able to get to another topic that you're very familiar with. I've watched a documentary that you did on this topic, and it's one that needs more awareness, and you're just the person to bring some of that awareness to us. And that topic is about the homeless. Would you tell us about how you got involved with your documentary or even becoming involved in the awareness of our homeless problem?
Yeah, well, I had been for many years in Los Angeles, and other places as well. I think collectively is probably one of the topics that I ended up interfacing with the most, just offering to serve food, to clean, and more recently when I was in LA, we actually used to, before they shifted it, they set up like a pop-up afternoon, evening dinner where we actually served our angels on the streets and other people who were hungry, and then brought it back and cleaned up. And I find it, for me, having lived in many big metropolises, from New York to LA to Madrid and Milan and Shanghai and a bunch of places where there are a lot of people living on the streets, some more than others. It's right. It's one of those things that it's right there in front of us, and yet we've almost become conditioned collectively to walk right past those individuals. Yeah, I get it. You're busy. I'm busy. They're asking for money all the time. Are you really empowering them by or are you helping them? Or are you hurting them by giving money? Maybe they'll go out and buy alcohol, or they'll be encouraged to continue to beg. And these different questions go through us, but we get to interface it every time. And so I found it really compelling topic for all of us to look at. And I'm glad you asked me about it, because it's our chance to step up in our beingness, in our true understanding of what we're doing here on earth, who we really are and who these other folks are to us. And because there are folks, you might like to think otherwise, but the folks on the streets are our folks. They're our family. They're our relatives. They are part of the one that we all are. And so walking past them is, in a certain sense, walking past yourself. And that's, other than to mean everybody's got to go out there and give money every time, or serve food, or donate clothes, or become an activist. It's understanding that it's how we feel when we're going by that. We're just stepping over them, or, like you said, recognizing. Can we just recognize them? I asked one gentleman one time, I said, well, what's most important to you? And he just said, to be acknowledged. I ask for, if somebody has $1 and they just look right past me like I don't exist. And I really took this simple essence of his message to heart. And as much as I can, when I've been in those situations over time, is I just look people in the eye, and I would say, answer their question, offer a blessing, just say that, something to them that I'd like to hear, and that's already a huge step forward. And so, in particular to the film, a friend of mine was running an outreach in Colorado, and they were going to have a gala. And so they were looking to make something to help them raise funds for their operation. And I helped them do it.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And you talked about your volunteer work and just serving to deliver meals to family members, because a lot of people know, and anyone who's listened to my podcast knows that I refer to humanity as one big family, just as you have. And it alarms me too how many people will walk by the homeless without acknowledging them. They've become the invisible people. Now, I don't want to embarrass anybody out there who does this, because there's a lot of reasons, as you touched on, why we do this. And a number is sometimes we just don't know how to help them. Or we wonder, as you said, is giving money to them going to serve them, or is it going to serve their addiction? Again, a lot of people are concerned. They're embarrassed. They don't know what to do. And it's in that state of confusion or unawareness that we can sometimes just ignore the thing that's right in front of us, or the people that are right in front of us. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons I think we've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen this, is that not everybody who is homeless, and nobody who is homeless actually, as a child, said, one day I'm going to grow up just to be homeless. I want to be, what do you want to be, son? Well, Dad, I really want to be homeless. I want to be one of those people on the streets asking for money and looking for food and finding a place to stay safe in the evening and wondering where my next meal was coming from, or where I was going to spend the night. No, people do not, just as prostitution, people do not wake up as little children and say, that's what I want to do in the future. It happens for a number of different reasons. And one of the different reasons that it happens is that sometimes there's a mental illness that happens, and there's a disassociation from the rest of the community, but there's still that need for us to eat, to find shelter, and to survive, which is something that we all need to do. But we have seen where some individuals who are homeless become violent. And so there is that aspect, I'm sure, that's running in the mind of someone who may reach out and get attacked as a result of it, because we don't know how to approach safely and how to approach in a way in which we can serve. So, have you experienced that? Can you add something to what I just said? Because I know that there's so many different reasons. Like I'd like to take a look at first what may be going on in the minds of the people who walk by the homeless without making any connection. And then I would like to take a look, if you're all right with this, at what may be going on and what is going on in the minds of the homeless, so that we can kind of work it together, and so that there's a more appreciation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. So what would you say would be perhaps running in the minds of the people who are walking by our homeless?
You know, John Paul, the people that it is John, right? He's J. Paul.
It's J. Paul, but I go by Paul. Yeah.
Paul. Okay. You had the J in there, just choosing.
I do. You know what? My brother, that's a story. That's my brother, Robert. I love my brother. He's such a great man. And when I first wrote my first book, he said, I was about to publish it. And I said, well, I'm going to publish Paul Nadeau. And he says, your name is Jean Paul. And we just kind of dropped the Jean when you were a child, but maybe you should put a J in front of your name, and that'll be more catchy. So now I get, is it J? Is it JP? Is it Jean? Is it Paul? And it's all right. Those combinations are fantastic, but I go by Paul.
Okay. Well, as Jews, then sure, I recognize people for what they choose to be called. So we'll go with Paul.
Thank you. You're a gentleman.
You're welcome. So we think many things now, and more than ever, it has to do with something that's on our phone. We could have had the same conversation 10 or 20 years ago, and it would have been, there have been an equal number of different things that people might have been thinking about, from what they're going to buy for dinner to what they're supposed to be doing at work, or what the boss thinks of this, or what their partner thinks of that, or where they're going to go on vacation, or how they're going to pay their bills, or whatever, or how they're going to make their millions. Now you add devices to the mix, and it has disconnected people from people even more. I mean, I remember taking the New York City subway in two different periods of life, and noticing just now how people that was the place where you could actually see everyone, and really get in contact with all different types of people from all different walks of life. And now 60 to 75% of those people have their head buried in a phone. So, are people even seeing our homeless angels in the first place is a whole nother, it's a debatable question. They're not people walk straight in the street with their phone. So, when it does come to actually seeing people, I do believe it's those narratives that you already mentioned. Some fear, are they dirty? I'm going to get in their way. I don't want them to see me. And Paul, I work in the space of, in addition to the filmmaking, and this is actually, filmmaking is now a portal for the transformational work that I do and the truth work that I do, is that I like to look at it from the spiritual perspective of what is it in me that this interaction is producing that is asking to be healed in me. So often we're looking at the other person and saying, what's your problem? Why are you yelling? Why are you acting this way? Why are you look this way? Or why are you doing this to somebody else? Instead of saying, what how you are at the moment is I feel uncomfortable when I pass you by, or when you say this. What's going on inside of me that I can actually address? And that's really where the first activism can happen in this and many other issues, is whatever the feeling that is. I feel discomfort, I feel sadness, I feel grief or apathy or fear. Okay, cool. Then if I hold on to that belief, that emotion, and just run with that instead of really sitting with that, it's going to repeat itself. It has to repeat itself, because your frequency, you are emitting that fear, and that particular person on the street, or whoever it happens to be, is simply mirroring for you that vibration. So now I would, whatever comes up in anybody, I would suggest, and this is what I did for myself. And I had so much when I lived in LA, there are people everywhere on the streets. So I got the chance to practice this in myself, and it was so liberating. Was simply say, oh, that's that thought that comes to me. That's that emotion. Instead of disregarding it and running past the person and getting on by, I let myself feel that emotion, feel my emotion. What is that? What am I really annoyed with? Am I annoyed at that person for interrupting me, getting in my way, but for asking for money, or for getting in the way on the street when I'm hustling to get to where I'm choosing to go? Or are they just activating what's already inside of me? And I began to turn it around and use those opportunities, as I did in the rest of life. It was just more obvious in this one, to shift that inside of me, to go in and say, I'm not going to feel my fear today. I'm going to feel my annoyance today. What am I really annoyed about? And it was something much bigger than a person stepped in my way on the street, or was, in front of my friend's store. It was something much deeper. So they, like other people who annoy us or antagonize us or whatever, are all giving us an amazing opportunity to see what's going on inside of us that's ready to be healed and ready to be transformed. It's a huge service on the cosmic level to have chosen or to align with a challenging life in order to stimulate other people into awareness, into love, into their true essence. And for me, that's how I like to look at it. And that shifted my demeanor around the people that I was running into, and it really enabled me to see the gift that they were giving me in that moment of shifting and healing something inside.
That's a wonderful way of looking at it, because yes, it does challenge who we are as human beings, individuals, and what it can bring out in us. And we react, of course, from a number of different things. And it's perhaps from our past, or what we've heard, or what we've been influenced by. But I love the way that you look at that. What is it in me that could use what's this experience teaching me? How can I improve myself as an individual, as a human being, and then share with someone in need? And I think that we have to challenge ourselves that way. We really do. It comes down to, who are we? And what can we do to make our spirit that much stronger, and so that we can share our spirit and hopefully with someone else and give someone a helping hand. So that is so very important. Thank you for sharing that.
No.
Now let's shift over a little bit to what may be happening in the mind of someone who finds himself without a home or without any means of having a next meal. And one of the things that I want to start off with is that a lot of people wonder why some homeless individuals are talking to themselves and are wondering if it's a mental illness, because we often I live in downtown Toronto, and so around us there are several homeless shelters, but there are also several people who still live on the street, and we see someone who's talking to themselves, and it seems that they're carrying on conversations. I look at my own life where COVID-19 kind of secluded me into a little box because I don't live with anybody. We all have a need to really connect with other people. And I'll admit, I've talked to myself. And I think that most of us at some point have talked to ourselves. Now, I want to bring that 100-fold, where you have no one that's talking to you. People are walking by you. You're not being seen. You're not being heard. You're not being validated. All things that we need as human beings. And we've seen what happens when some people are not seen and heard. Our attention is drawn to some of the terrible things that have happened as a result of people who have not been seen and heard. First person shooters, all kinds of things that go wrong in society because you don't see me, you don't hear me. Speaking to oneself is a way of perhaps connecting with another voice, and that, if you don't get that external stimuli, and I'd like your opinion on this, can actually accelerate that feeling that I need to talk to myself. I need to be heard. And then we have these conversations. First it was you, now it's somebody else. Would that make any sense to you, having dealt with the homeless? Would that resonate with you?
It's possible. It's, other than something that I've studied deeply, why folks would speak out loud, speak to themselves. It's certainly a possibility. I would say that the factors leading somebody to where they are on the streets, and you assume if you're on the streets, you don't even have a car to sleep in.
Right.
So, as other people say, I slept in my car, you're technically homeless, but at least you had a car. And if we're really looking at people who are sleeping at the shelters or on the streets themselves, there is a high level of what we call, or I'll say, mental conditions, because everything is conditioned. It can be moved. And certainly a lot of heavy trauma. I believe the last time I looked, it was like hundreds of thousands of soldiers, veterans of the US military sleeping on the streets, or technically homeless. So a lot of trauma. And then if you mix in the relief that people seek from the trauma, people look at folks who are doing, who are embroiled in, the street life, be it what we're talking about today, being sex trafficked or through prostitution, things like that. And they look at them, oh, you're doing these drugs. Like, oh, this person obviously is on the streets because they were doing drugs and they've lost it. And, as some sort of symptom of it, instead of looking at it like, what must have happened to that person that they are now hooked on this drug? Mm-hmm. So often the folks go to that because there's so much pain and they don't have the tools, the support network, the love, someone to talk to that other people might have. And so they turn to drugs, and maybe just once, and then they get hooked. It could be a dealer, a pusher that's like really encouraging them to do it, and then they get hooked. So it's remembering that too. And now you obviously, being on any drug can have its own results. Now, if you've taken synthetic drugs, now they can really cook the mind even more. Mm-hmm. So what all of these factors will do to the human mind, and what the different things that come out of that, talking out loud, talking to yourself, being belligerent, certainly could be some of those results from that. The piece that I like to focus on is, what are the underlying root factors that led to this being possible in the first place? What happened in this person's home? as a kid growing up, what happened in their lives, what is the system that's supposed to be helping them, where did they fall short, was the system ever really meant to help them in the best way possible? And asking some of the hard questions and saying, well, if it's already been proven, this is what I've heard, it could be different, but it's been proven that in many cases actually cheaper to give everyone a residence than actually deal with all of the litany of costs that comes with people living on the street. If that were true, then why wouldn't that be much more often tried and examined? Because it's been said that that's the case. What's really going on here? There are other mitigating factors that lead to this that, if we're really looking to be activists, and if we look at this sort of level, we can really ameliorate and assist a lot of areas of society in addition to homelessness. Is what are the root causes? What's really going on in our society that is leading so many people to this place of being lost? And then how can we take it all and begin to make blessings out of it? What is our individual opportunity in our unique sectors and geographies and families and communities to make an impact in one person's life? And that's all. I mean, one person is, other than necessary to fix the millions, it's like, what's the one person around you who you could impact or keep from being homeless? Because there are a lot of runaways, kids that run away, and there's a lot of factors going on in the home at the time that happens, obviously, and then they don't have anywhere to go, and so they end up on the streets. And within 48 hours, they've been almost certainly been solicited to by someone who's a predator who plans on sex trafficking them, or something else. So understanding that it also is beforehand, let's look at what's going on in our homes, in our communities, and watching out for the young ones who are other than equipped to deal with what's going on in their lives, and what can we do to reach out to them and create relationships of openness and trust that could spare someone from running away, which is living on the streets is tough. It's really, really tough life, as we can imagine. It's a very dangerous place, and it's something that we can actually do something about when we look at it from this place of prevention and looking and helping our youth.
Thank you, Michael. That was very thoughtful, because it is each and every one of our responsibility to be aware of what's going on in our own homes or in our circle of friends, and to see that something may be building up. We can stop, or at least jump in and try to help before it gets out of hand. It may be a drug problem. As you said, it may be a young person who's thinking about running away, all these kinds of things. Well, if a child is feeling unsafe in their own home, hopefully there's a teacher or a friend or a family out there that see what's going on and that can help the young person before they jump and find the streets to think that that's the best place for them. And the same is true with people who may be experiencing some difficulties in their lives, some drug addictions. Maybe there's an intervention that can happen. So it's so true. So I would like to finally close it off with, what are some of the things that we can do as a people when we are walking on the streets to make the homeless less invisible, to maybe share a hello or whatever? What would you recommend?
Well, what I did that was really interesting, and it can lead, make some time in case it goes long, but just engage someone once, just for the heck of it. I get it. We all have lots of things to do, but it'll be a memorable conversation, most likely, in one way or another. Take a pause on the busyness for a minute and allow the adventure of life to unfold. And imagine that the person in front of you or to your side was actually placed there as a sort of character in your movie. And then they're someone you see all the time. Let's say you're always passing them by on the street, they're in the same place. Or someone interrupts you when you're off, moving through to go someplace else. Just take a minute and just say, hello, what's your name? What are you up to today? And just see where the conversation leads, because you already you already know where running, walking past them leads to. So just for fun or out of love or out of adventure, just stop and say something that comes to your heart in that moment. Can I have $1? What are you going to use it for?
Yeah,
But in a nice way, like not like a, you're going to use it to drink, but like, oh, would you like $1? Am I investing in your company? Tell me what you're selling. Like, just be fun. Like, have a laugh with it, and see where in the stories how people, when they open up to you, like you said, somebody waiting for just an ear sometimes, just someone to hear them, validate them. That could be a massive service. And whether you end up giving them some food that you have in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse, or you give them $1, or you give them just a smile, just sitting with them for that moment can potentially be a pretty big gift for that person and for yourself. So have fun, treat people like you'd like to be treated. And while we don't always have the time for everyone to do that, pick a time and see what happens. Try it with one person.
That's my philosophy in life. Thank you so much. It's just imagining what it must be like for the other person and treating them the way that you would like to be treated yourself. Acknowledge them, say hello, and as you just so nicely put it, start a conversation, see where it goes. And thank you so much, Michael, for once again coming on this show and for dropping such value to everyone. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Paul. My pleasure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspire Us. I'm going to take a moment right now to talk about my book, Take Control of Your Life. It is available in most online bookstores, and it is helping save lives. It's about mental wellness and how to deal with self-sabotage. And it's also available on audio. You can get it at Audible or Amazon. So pick up your copy. You may change your life or the life of someone else. Gift it. It would be a great gift to give. Today we're going to talk about the homeless, street angels, the invisible people. Many of our homeless appear invisible to us. We walk by them every day. We don't see them. We don't make eye contact with them. We just walk by, uncertain what to do, uncertain what to say, and sometimes just wondering what they're going to do if I do share $1 or $2 with them. Will they buy drugs? Will they buy booze? What is it? Everybody needs to be seen and heard. And I can only imagine that some of our homeless feel unseen and unheard, and how difficult that must be. Because not everybody who ends up on the street, let me rephrase that. People don't end up on the street for no reason. It might have been abuse at home. It might have been a drug addiction. Everybody's got a story. My next guest is going to talk about the homeless. And he has a message. Let's make them visible again. At least share a smile, a hello, and maybe even ask how they're doing, and more. Without any further delay, I introduce you once again to Michael Mattuci.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another insightful episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and leave your comments. For more information, check out our website at www.inspireus.ca. Remember, it's not what happens to us that matters most. It's how we respond to what happens to us that does. Stay strong and resilient.